Well, hello there, and happy Friday to everyone. Happy Q&A Friday. That's what we do here every single Friday. Of course, every day of the week, we do every weekday, we do a quick little huddle just to give you a little tidbit to kind of help you further your voiceover career. And today is Q&A Friday, so it's wide open. So send your questions, put them in the chat. Also, just chime in from where you're watching or listening from, and I'll do some shout outs here in a few minutes. Um, Real quick, my name is Mike Hathcote. I'm a full-time professional voiceover talent. Been doing this for, I don't know, about 3 decades now. Also just finished writing my first book called The Voiceover Blueprint. Link in the description for that. Almost done with the audiobook, by the way. Should hopefully be done with that by the weekend, and that should be up there as well. So, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. And we'd love to get you this content as quickly and easily as possible. Okay. All right. Let's get right into questions, shall we? There's Sean from Longview, first in today. And there's Becky, ready for the weekend in Michigan. There's Jason from Kearney, Nebraska. John from Denver. Ron says, good morning from Grand Haven, Michigan, just starting out and not able to afford a pro demo for a website or direct marketing. Does that limit me to only Fiverr, Upwork, etc.? Yes, I'm afraid it does, Ron. And here's kind of the backstory and the reason why that is. When you start doing direct marketing, you are putting yourself up against all the other people out there who are doing direct marketing. And those people are seasoned pros. And so if you don't have a good pro quality demo to be competitive in that space, you're going to be suffering in comparison. So you want to make sure that when you start doing your direct marketing, you have your best foot forward. You have, at least one, if not more, good demos to showcase and a really high quality website to showcase them on. And you just want to be competitive. So that's why, at that level, at that kind of DIY demo level, you are kind of at that Fiverr and Upwork kind of level. Now, the better your demo, the better you're going to be competitive even on those platforms, because there are people on those platforms who also still have pro demos. And so you're competing against those same people as well. It's not as many as would be doing direct marketing that you'd be up against, but it's still quite a few. So just make sure really before you do any kind of marketing that you have good quality demos, even a good quality DIY demo. It may not be pro quality that you've gotten done with a producer, but make sure that it's high quality before you actually start, getting it out there in front of a lot of people. Great question though, Ron. There's Robert in Spain. Just bought the Kindle version of your book. Looking forward to reading it. Well, thank you, Robert. Appreciate that. I promise by next week we should have the audiobook version available. In fact, we're going to be doing a really cool bundle where you can get the audiobook, the ebook, not the Kindle version, but just the PDF of the book, plus a bunch of other freebies, all for a really decent price. So that'll be coming once I, hurry up and get the audiobook done. I was inundated with work this week, and of course that takes precedence. And I'll hopefully get that thing done this weekend. There's Corey from Whitehall, Wisconsin, and Bob from Wadsworth, Ohio. There's Callie from Pasco, Chris from Lakeville, Minnesota, Kathleen from Evanston, Wyoming. And good morning to Sandra from sunny London, Ontario. There's Chris from Houston. Chris says, any plans to do some type of VO summit like we had last year? Actually, good question. We are. We are talking about doing some sort of event, possibly in Vegas. Still in the early discussions on that, but yes, we are planning to do something like that. And we're hopefully going to do something before it gets too, you know, crazy hot outside. When it gets to be 100 and stupid outside, we're gonna probably not go there. But hopefully either in the spring, and then, of course, if we miss that, we'll do something in the fall so it's not crazy hot. There's Denise. Hi from LI. Kevin from Old Bridge, New Jersey. There's Kirk from Greenville, South Carolina. Dale said, just ordered my first purpose-built voiceover isolation booth. Got a great deal on it and will be here in 10 weeks. Have a great weekend, all. Dale in West Sussex, UK. Awesome. Doesn't that feel good when, well, it'll feel even better when it gets there. But yeah, when you get that thing built up and you sit down in that thing for the first time, boy, it's a good feeling, especially if you've been in the closet or, in some sort of a makeshift kind of booth. It sure does feel nice to sit down in that fresh, clean new booth. Police Commander Z3 from ATL. There's Andrew from Latvia. Jules in South Idaho. I guess that's South Idaho. Scotty from Brookings, South Dakota. San Amigdo, I guess that okay, yeah, Boomer from San Amigdo Mountains, California. I've never heard of that. LaDonna from St. Louis, Missouri. What's your take on the software DaVinci Resolve as far as audio editing? Never used it. I mean, I've heard of it, and but I'm pretty much on, I live and breathe Adobe Audition. That's what I've been using for, gosh, close to a decade at this point, and I know nothing about any of the other DAWs. I know there are plenty of them, but I'm sorry, I don't have really much to say about DaVinci. What I would do if I were you, LaDonna, is just hop on, YouTube. I'm sure there's a bajillion tutorials on how to use it, and, if you're trying to kind of suss out whether or not you wanna start using it or not, just kind of do some research on YouTube, and there's plenty of videos on all the DAWs out there. Mike says, "Good morning. On Fiverr, my impressions have gone way down. Maybe a negative private review. Any suggestions on how to recover?" That's a good question. Fiverr is not my specialty, but, um, I have heard of that happening. We actually have a Fiverr expert in the voiceover blueprint, who has basically mastered all that algorithmic stuff within Fiverr. Um, you're not in the blueprint though, I don't think. But anyway, hmm, really the only way to recover it, as far as I know, is just more good reviews to off balance it. Um, but I'm not sure if the private reviews would affect your impressions or not. That is a good question. Another thing you can do is you can do that Fiverr, what's it called? Fiverr, not Fiverr Pro, but Fiverr Plus, I think is what they call it. It's like 15 bucks a month, and you get your own personal private Fiverr success manager, and you meet with them, and they can kind of diagnose all your issues and give you the, tips to get it back up and running, the best you can. So maybe try that out. And here's the cool part. With that, all you need is just to pay the one-time fee. You sign up for the $15 and then you can get your consultation. And then when you're done with that, just cancel the service. And then that way you only have to pay once for that consultation. Might be worth a try. There's David from New Orleans, Nolans. There's Wally checking in from Maryland. Andrew says, "Is there a way to check if the DIY demo is any good or needs improvement?" Yeah, what I would do is I would send it to, an actual, what am I trying to say here? Like an audio engineer, because there's several different things that would make a pro quality demo or even a DIY demo, you know, good. and that would be the performance number 1. In fact, you know what? You can send it to me. Send it to training@thevoiceoverblueprint.com, and I'll be happy to give it a listen because, yes, performance, sound quality, the length of the demo, the spots, the order, and the variety that you have in the demo, there's a lot of variables. So just send it to the voiceover blueprint. I'm sorry, training@thevoiceoverblueprint.com, and I'll happily take a listen to it for you. San Amidio. Okay. Good to know. Boomer says it's pronounced San Amidio. So the G is silent. Got it. I'll see if I can remember that for next time. I doubt it. Callie says YouTube is awesome for tutorials. I used it a lot when putting my studio together, and so far it has worked really well. Yeah, you can learn anything on YouTube. I mean, I don't e when I started doing my woodworking stuff a little over a year ago, YouTube tutorials were best, as far as not only to learn how to do specific things, but also to just find out, maybe tool reviews and, in your case, DAW reviews and stuff like that, just to kind of get the get an idea of if it's gonna be a good fit. John says, "How do you set up your scripts to read? I have screens and I'm getting sound reflections." Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, you're gonna need your screen. I mean, you can't edit without a screen, right? So you need your screen, and that's how I do it. I just put it up on the screen. I have 2 screens. I have 2 27-inch monitors here. So that's why when you see me looking over, it's because 'cause I'm looking at this monitor for the chat, for the YouTube chat, and over here, I keep my email up. So I'm always available if somebody comes in email, I'm on it. But I don't know how else you would be able to do that in your booth, even if you just have 1 screen. And I honestly don't think that 1 screen is going to make a huge difference, or 2. I've got 2 here, and they're giant. And so I just have the rest of the room really, really treated well. So I don't have any issues with reflection at all. Um, I definitely don't advise printing out your scripts and having them on a lectern or something, That's just wasting paper, and they shuffle, and, it's harder to mark them up and stuff. It's just another thing to have in your space. So that's why I always use them on my monitors, and I always just put it straight ahead on my monitor and then just start recording. And remember, when your microphone's placed, you talk past your microphone straight ahead. Um, I don't other than that, I can't really think of anything else that you would be able to do other than try to treat everything else on your space in your space, maybe even your desk. Like, my desk is hard. I don't have a soft cover over my desk or anything, so I've got quite a few hard surfaces right here in front of me, but because the rest of my booth is treated so well, it seems to work okay. Um, Another thing you can do is you can speak to a booth specialist. For instance, like, George Whittam, George the Tech is his professional name. Look up George the Tech. He is a booth guru, and he can help maybe diagnose where that bouncing is coming from. So check George out. Robert says, "How close to ready should your raw recordings be in terms of noise floor and RMS levels? I'm aware of the ACX requirements, but not sure how much normalization is to be expected post-recording." Ooh, excellent question, Robert. Okay, so don't worry about RMS for just day-to-day jobs. RMS is really kind of an audiobook, and even more specifically, an ACX requirement. They want your RMS to be between -18 and -23 dB. And the reason why is because they don't want the listener of the book to have to turn up a chapter and then turn down a chapter and turn up a chapter as they're going from chapter to chapter. They want a fairly consistent volume level going throughout the entire book. So that's why they require that your audio fit in those parameters, that -18 to -23. Don't worry about that if you're not doing audiobooks. When you're just doing regular day-to-day work, the standard normalization should be -3 dB. That's kind of the industry standard. Now, sometimes if I'm sending in an audition or something, I might turn it up just a little bit more than -3. I might normalize to -1 or something just to kinda boost it a little bit. But as a general rule, when you're done recording and editing and you do your processing, pretty much the last step should be, normalized to -3. Now, when it comes to noise floor, the target is -60 dB, and your noise floor is it's basically the sound of your room when nothing is happening, when you're not talking or even breathing. It's just your ambient sound, room tone. If for some reason your booth is not quiet enough to get it down to -60 dB, naturally or, organically, then you may have to incorporate some plugins and stuff like that that'll take kind of the rest of it out. However, plugins aren't magic. Well, some of them are, but you wanna make sure that you're getting close to -60, at least in the neighborhood before you start using plugins. If you're, like, at the -30 range or whatever, a plugin's not gonna do much work for you. So just make sure that you get it organically down to in the neighborhood of -60, and then if you need that little bit of extra cleanup, then you can use a plugin like NS1 or, RX11 or any of those kind of plugins, or even the denoise that's built in. If you're using Adobe Audition, you can use the denoise effect built into Adobe. And most other DAWs have that same kind of noise reduction software. Wally says, "Don't forget the like." I already did that, Wally, but thank you for reminding me again. I did that at the top, but I'll say it again. Don't forget to hit the like button, like Wally said. LaDonna says, "Can you give me your insight on a two-person voiceover process? For example, sharing one mic to speak in, distance placement, etc." Hmm, interesting. I I honestly don't. Two people sharing one mic. Well, I've never even had to think about that, so I don't even know. I guess the way I would do it is just make sure that you're still keeping that same direction that we talked about. Remember we talked about mic proximity the other day? Make sure that you're still keeping that same proximity and the same angle for both people, which can be hard. Now, you probably don't wanna use a shotgun mic for that. You'd probably wanna use a condenser mic because it has a wider spectrum of what it picks up. So, that would probably be the first thing that I would do is use a condenser mic versus a shotgun, and then just stay placed about the same. Now, if you're both speaking at the same time or singing or something like that, that's one thing, but if you're, alternating, and this is just me thinking out loud as we're talking here. As you're alternating, you could probably just, whoever's speaking, one person lean in and then back away, and then the other person lean in and then back away. That's the that's all I can think of. So, I'm sorry. I don't have much more than that. Wayne says, "I have my 27-inch main screen and my scripts on a tablet on the desk below it." That's good. Just make sure that you're not, s if you've got your tablets down here, then as soon as you look down, then you're also speaking down. So make sure that your mic is in the right placement for that. Just remember when you're recording, don't do a lot of head movements because even just a little head movement will affect how your microphone picks you up. Let's see. Chris says, "Are there any words you have a difficult time pronouncing that you hate seeing pop up in a script?" Oh, absolutely. Similarly, regularly, um, What are some others? Similarly, regularly. Um, just off the top of my head, those are the 2 bad ones just right off the top of my head. Something about those regularly, similarly, it's just kind of blah, 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 blah. It just kinda it's hard to say. And what's weird is it's easier to say them as just that word, right? I can say similarly all day long, but when you put it in a sentence where, it's up against some other words, there are some words that don't belong next to other words. At least they don't belong there for narration. Um, it's easy to read those words, right? But some of these people who write these scripts, they don't realize, well, they do realize they're going to be read out loud, but they don't take that into account when they're writing the copy. I wish every script writer who sends me a script would read the script out loud themselves instead of just typing it out like a book, so they would know that there are certain words that don't belong next to other words. So, but those 2 are the ones that jump off the top of my head. Joyce says, my web or from Southfield, Michigan, my webpage doesn't have any professional demos, but is it okay to let them know? I have samples, and if a prospective client wants to check out my work, then I wouldn't, Joy. I mean, you do you, boo boo, but I wouldn't do it. Um, I just don't want to give the wrong impression. Remember, we talked about, I don't know what, it's been a while, but we talked about acting as if, and that you should act as if you've been doing this for 20 years. Never let on that you're new. So if you reach out to somebody, a brand new, prospective client, and you tell them, "Hey, I'm new and I don't have pro demos, but do you like this?" It wouldn't be one thing that I would do. I would want to make sure that whoever I reached out to, that they, you know, in their mind, I'm just new to them and I'm a veteran at this. And by the way, here's all my awesome demos. That's just me. Mark says, what characteristics does a pro demo have in comparison to a well-made DIY demo where there is video, music, and voice well mixed and balanced? Well, like I mentioned a minute ago, several things. It's very hard. Number one is the direction. It's very hard to self-direct in a demo situation, which is why a producer or someone that you partner with on that demo is so important. What you think sounds great, even just on a performance side, may not sound up to snuff to someone else's ears, which is why it's so important to have someone directing you through that recording process of your demo. So that's number one. Number two, the styles of demo, or I'm sorry, the styles of spots you have within your demo. There's kind of a formula that you need to use. And not only the different styles, but the order in which they are in your demo. And we haven't even gotten to sound quality yet, right? So we're talking about performance and selection. Also, the length of your demo. You don't want to go any longer than, say, a minute to a minute 15. I listened to a demo, a prospective demo, or a DIY demo from someone, I don't know, it's been about a week or so, maybe 2 weeks. Anyway, it was like a minute 45, almost 2 minutes long for a commercial demo. For a narration demo, that would be fine, but for a commercial demo, this person had full spots in their demo. Each one was like, 10, 15 seconds or 15 or more, and they had full spots. You don't have the luxury of having spending that much time in a demo. People have very short attention spans, and so you need to give them short little bites of the different styles that you're able to do. And you always wanna keep them guessing, and that's why the order is so important. You wanna grab them initially, you wanna hold them, and then you wanna keep making them think, "What else can this guy do or this girl do?" I wanna keep listening to see what else they've got in the pipeline here. And so there's lots of those kind of nuance type things that go into, a pro demo. And then lastly, of course, is the sound quality, which is, Good music, good sound effects, well mixed, bright, sunny, in their face, that kind of thing. Kirk says 2 people on 1 mic may invite amplitude variance problems. That's true. That's very true. I mean, that's why if you're doing 2 people like that, I would do 2 mics. That way both people can kind of be on in their own space and that kind of thing. Robert says, "Thanks, Mike. Is that negative, 60 dB noise floor to be measured with a silent recording or on the vocal recording?" That's a good question. It's silent. So here's how you would measure your noise floor. Open up your DAW, hit record, or if you're monitoring it live, you can do it without recording, but I don't do that. So I just hit record and just sit. Don't breathe, don't say anything, just sit for 10, 15 seconds and then hit stop. And then that spot where you didn't do anything, you can just highlight part of that space and hit play, and your meter, your volume, your tone meter will actually start bouncing where that level is, and you just look at where it is, and that's how okay, it's at minus 50. Okay, I've got some work to do, either by a plug-in or something like that. But that's how you would monitor your noise floor. It's just the sound of your room when nothing is happening. Now, I'll say this, the plugin that you use will clean all of it, even under when you're talking. But the way you can actually monitor it is just sit there silent and watch that space. But when you apply a plugin, it will clean everything, even during when you're saying stuff. The last thing you want to do is only treat the spaces in between the lines. Then there's a vacuum. I've actually had people insert silence in between phrasing, right? And you're talking, and all of a sudden there's nothing. And it's totally noticeable because there's a vacuum, right? You've got your noise floor, you're talking, you're doing your thing, and then all of a sudden there's a gap and there's silence. Nothing sounds worse than drawing attention to the silence or to the gaps. So your noise floor should be cleaned throughout, both in between phrasing and during when you're actually speaking. Oh, boomer, that's a good one. Particularly, that's another good one that's really hard to say, especially when it's in a what's in a sentence. Particularly. Yeah, Bruce said the same thing. Particularly is bad. And a lot of times it kind of depends on the read, but a lot of times if you're going for kind of a more casual conversational read, you can just kind of say particularly. You don't have to say particularly. You can just kind of gloss over it a little bit because remember, if you're going for that kind of a read, perfection is the enemy because that's not how people talk when you're in a conversation. You want to come across just like you would if you were just talking to a friend. So instead of saying particularly, you can just say, particularly, I'm feeling particularly sad today or so, whatever. You can kind of fudge it a little bit. Adrian says, I know I need to make videos of my work and post them on social media. Yuck. However, do you have any technical advice before posting them? I'm thinking short and sweet at first. Okay, so I'm not sure what you mean by videos of your work. Do you mean videos of you working in your booth? Like videos of you working? Or do you mean videos of actual jobs that you've done? So if you could clarify that. Uh, First of all, hardly ever post videos on YouTube or on any social media platforms of me actually working, doing a recording. Really, what I post are finished jobs that I've gotten done. And so the way you do that is when you're done with a new job, ask the person that you're working with if you can see the original or the final project when it's done. And then if they do, great. Save it, because if it's a good piece of work, you can then upload that to YouTube or wherever to put it out there. Bob says, "Are you using your shotgun mic right now? When you look away, the volume doesn't change. Can't tell the difference." Yes, I'm using my mic. Maybe if I get closer, hello, hello. Does that make any difference? Because I know sometimes when I do look away, like if I do this, I'm talking away from it, so it could be a little different. Joy says, "I agree. It would be a case where the client reached out to me." Okay, I'm not sure what you're referring to. I've blinked since the last question, so I might not be. What are you? Let's see. Let me go back up to your original question. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I think you mean so if a client reaches out to you just blindly and asks you for samples, and if you don't have a good pro quality demo, then I mean, really, that's all you got. So you got to roll with it, right? But I wouldn't go out and seek it out with DIY demos. If they ask you, then you got to send them what you got. Bruce says, "What are the first 2 or 3 professional demos you should have?" Excellent question, Bruce. All right. I always tell people, as a general rule, now this could be different for some people, but as a general rule, a commercial demo is usually the most marketable. And that's actually one of the things that I talk about in this book. I talk about all the different kinds of demos that you should start with. And the first one is commercial because it is the most marketable generally. Now, if you don't wanna ever do commercials and you wanna do just audiobooks or something, then that's a different story, but if you just wanna go out and start working generally in voiceover, a commercial demo is probably where you wanna start because you can showcase more range in a commercial demo, everything from high energy to warm and sincere and, girl or guy next door and all the others. That would be number 1, generally. Number 2 would be some sort of a narration style demo, and that would cover things like medical narration, e-learning, just longer form narration. Those are probably the first 2 because those 2 buckets are the 2 biggest job opportunities in voiceover, right? So commercial and narration, and those are general terms, but commercial and narration are the 2 biggest kind of pieces of the voiceover job pie out there. So you're gonna have your biggest chances of getting work with those 2 types of demos. Now, beyond that, you can get much more specific. You can get into very you can get I just have a medical demo. It's all medical. I also have a specific IVR demo. It's just telephone stuff. And so whoever I'm trying to target, that's the demo that I send. But when you're just beginning, to cover the most bases, commercial, narration, that's gonna be probably your best bet. Great question, though. Wayne says, "I have bifocals, so my eyes focus downward on the tablet like reading a book while my head stays straight." Okay. Or I would need to crane my neck up to see the main screen, and that's a pain in the neck. Good. I see what you did there. Um, I actually have the opposite problem. I have actually recently, and I don't know if you noticed this, but I've had to raise my monitors because I was having some neck issues. And I'm 6'3". I'm a little taller, so you know, I need to kinda keep my head pointed up. So they actually say, and my chiropractor told me this a couple of weeks ago, which is the reason why I raised my monitors, that your eyes should hit just below the center point of your monitor when you're looking straight ahead. Your eyes should be just below midpoint, which is what I've done here, and that's why my camera is still I'm having to look way up to see you guys. Oh, see, I can't even say it. Wayne says peculiarly. Oh, that's the worst. Whoever created that word should be peculiarly. I don't even know if I would be able to do that in a sentence. Kathleen says, Wayne, is it possible to get a pair of inexpensive readers to wear just for reading scripts? That way you wouldn't have to focus a certain way. Sorry, Mike. I know this isn't my video. That's okay. Hey, if you've got a good suggestion, that's great. But it sounds like he's got bifocals, so he can kind of look down and still not change his head. So that works. Robert says, thanks for clarifying regarding how to properly measure the noise floor. I found that ACX check plugin for Audacity measures the noise floor for a lot higher in vocal recordings versus silent ones. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I rarely do audiobooks. The only time I'm doing one now for my own book, but other than that, if you're not worried, if you're not working on ACX, I would not worry about their check and all that kind of stuff. Um, but if you're using Audacity, just focus on what the Audacity DAW tells you for regular work. If you're working on ACX, then yes, go by what they say. But for day-to-day work, individual jobs, just focus on what your DAW says as far as what your noise floor is. Bob says, okay, now I hear it. Okay, I guess you meant the microphone situation. Yeah. Oh, Wayne says, Kathleen, my eyes track different directions. I have prisms that bend the light to meet my eyes. Crazy. That's cool. Isn't technology and science great? Kirk says, Wayne, I specifically had computer glasses made mid-range with bifocals for this glorious VO journey, FYI. Yeah. Hey, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes to work. Hey, there's Stella. She says, first live. Hi from Australia. And Wayne says, Kirk, great idea. I'll look into it. All right, guys, we are rolling today. We've got a lot of good questions coming up. We're at 37 minutes in. Okay, one last time. I'm going to mention it. Please like, subscribe. We're charging towards 100,000 subscribers. We would love to get there sooner than later. Also, remember, if you do want a copy of the book, check it out. It's on Amazon. Uh, Kindle version, paperback version, audiobook version to come, hopefully by this weekend. And do me all a favor. Have a great weekend. It's actually raining today here in Phoenix, which is unusual, but that's okay. Sun's coming back out tomorrow. So until then, I will see you. We'll be back here on Monday, same bat time, same bat channel, and talk to you soon. Break a lip.